Well, hey, everybody. I want to welcome you again to another episode of the Performance Enhanced Benefits Podcast, where the purpose of this podcast is to bring you value as a business owner and HR executive by bringing you subject matter experts in their area of field, so that way you can help to learn and grow your business the best possible. Today, I'm going to be joined by Brad Morgan. He's the Managing Director of the Strategic Retirement Partners here in DFW. Hey, Brad, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing, Steven?
I'm doing good. It looks like we're getting a little sun here in DFW, so we're just trying to make it through and count down here until we get into Thanksgiving, right?
Yes, it's a slide to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can start wearing all of our stretchy pants and everything, right?
I've got my turkeys lined up.
Yeah, there you go. Well, hey, Brad, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
I've been working in the investment field for 20 years now. I've been with Strategic Retirement Partners for the last almost 5 years. We have a more of a focus on retirement planning for institutions. Before that, I was with Merrill Lynch for 15 years. And before that, I was a cost accountant for Texas Instruments.
Okay, so you've always done something in numbers, then. So would you
Yes.
kind of consider yourself to be pretty good at then, right?
Yes, I see numbers.
So not everyone is good with the numbers and getting into the numbers. So really, how did you get started with that?
Wow. So in college, I was going down the path of electrical engineering, and I decided that, well, physics decided for me that we didn't get along. And so after I did pass it, but after that, I decided that was not the career path for me. I went over and I switched to accounting. Really enjoyed doing cost accounting and corporate accounting and budgets. The building of budgets for corporate institutions, and one thing led to another. Graduated with a BS in accounting from UTD. Got a MBA in finance from University of Dallas, and went on to work with Texas Instruments. Realize that if you're not an engineer at Texas Instruments, you're probably going to be capped out on your growth. And uh, started looking, and Merrill Lynch offered me a position, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's quite the switch there. I mean, I know engineering, you are dealing with a lot of math and things like that, but still making that switch from engineering into the finance world. So that probably had to be a little bit interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a science guy, so for me, I was still dealing with numbers, which I really like working with numbers, and it worked out really good for me. My dad was an engineer, so I thought that might be the path for me, but it wasn't. But I really enjoyed the finance route a whole lot better than incorporating science into it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's where many struggle. They may be good with numbers. I was very similar. I was very good with the numbers, but the science stuff not so much. So my science scores throughout high school and college were always pretty poor. Math, on the other hand, was a little bit better. So obviously we asked you on here today to talk a little bit about retirement planning and different kinds of things that are out there. So from an employer standpoint, why is it so important for them to be able to try to offer a a retirement plan to their company?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. Everybody wants to retire. I don't think everybody realizes the work it takes to retire, and the dedication and commitment. It's no different than going to work out at a gym. Everybody wants to be in shape, but not everybody wants to eat healthy or exercise or do
Hmm.
the things. Retirement's no different. Everybody wants to retire, but there's going to be some things that you have to do in order to attain a successful retirement and not just live off Social Security. It used to be in the old days where companies would offer a pension and it was automatic. You didn't think about retirement. Well, there's so few companies that offer pensions now that it's on yourself to ensure that you're prepared for retirement. And so I'll just throw a couple of numbers at you, since we're going that route. Let's say you start working at age 22. The average age of retirement in America is 62 today. So that's 40 years of work. I won't get on the Social Security, claiming Social Security is 62 soapbox, but that's a big no-no to me. But so you work for 40 years. Let's say you lived age 82, which statistics say you can live much longer than 82. But that's 20 years of work. so, or retirement. So you're working for 40 years, you're retired for 20 years. Well, if you think about that, logic says you should be saving 50% of your paycheck to prepare for 20 years of retirement for 40 years of work. Nobody can afford to do that. So what should you be doing? Those are the things we help people figure out.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting statistic, that you work so long and then you're having to worry about how you're not going to work, and all you're working off of just that retirement plan, which is what you all are ultimately helping them to figure out. So, what are some different things that you all do to help businesses to get those plans rolling or improve their performance?
Well, when I started in this industry, uh, it it mainly came for business owners because when they set up a retirement plan, it is a great way to reduce their taxable income. It's the best legal way you can reduce your taxable income. So if a business owner is making $100,000 for easy math, they could put in this year 20,500. You If they did that in a traditional 401k or traditional account, they could reduce their taxable income from 100,000 down to 79,500 just by doing that simple contribution. If they're over 50, they could do it up to 27,000, which would get it from 100,000 down to 73,000. So you not only does it reduce your taxable income, it probably is going to lower the tax rate that you're in by reducing that taxable income level.
So ultimately, it can help create a win-win situation. Then that somebody's going to help themselves for their future self, but also their current self with the amount of or reducing their tax liability then at the end of the year.
No, that's absolutely right. Although it does help you currently with your taxes, it's still a benefit down the road as you're preparing for retirement. You've actually got a bucket of money now that you can go and be prepared to retire at 65 or 70 or whatever your age is. You're now not only saving in taxes, but you're also saving for a retirement goal.
Okay, well that's good to know. And then when we're looking at different kind of retirement plans, we'll kind of break it down a little bit and talk more specifics about each one. But what are some different kinds of retirement plans that are out there, specifically at an employer work site?
So you got to be careful. You're going with type of plan versus type of platform that you can
Okay,
have. So it starts off, the simplest version is IRA, individual retirement account. So this is if you just want to save a dollar amount. This year you can save $6,000 in there if you're under 50, another thousand if the catch up if you're over 50. Then you're going to go to, you can do a SEP IRA. So this is if you're a small business owner, you can create a SEP IRA or a simple IRA. And those have a lot less rules and regulations than the 401k does for the corporate entity. So for example, for my business, we just have a SEP IRA. I like the SEP better than the simple because it gives you a higher limit that you can contribute to. The simple only allows you this year to do 14,000. Next year it's 15,500. Whereas the SEP, you can do the same limits as a 401k, which is 20,500, and then additional 6,500 for a 50 catch up.
okay, that's
Um,
you're right. Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and then if you wanted to go even further, go into the 401k savings for corporate America. So you can get a company match on there. Then they can layer on what's called a profit sharing. So different than a pension. So you'd have 401k, corporate match, profit sharing, and this can allow you to get up in the $58,000 limit. If that's not enough and you have a small business, there's a plan that's very attractive for small business owners that do exceptionally well. It's called a cash balance plan, and they can put in hundreds of thousands of dollars in there. The catch on that, I think the limit is this coming year, or this year it's 305. Next year it's $330,000 a business owner can put into that. The catch on that is it has to be invested very conservatively, because if it's aggressive, the rate of return can reduce your contribution limit, and it also has to be set up for 5 years to do that.
Interesting. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that one at all. So for those that may not be as well, like, so how do if I'm a small business owner, how do you help me to determine which one is the best plan for my company?
Well, it's one, it's how much money are you willing to contribute to this? What
Okay,
is the
that's key.
dollar amount you want to do? That's going to be the telltale signs of that. Two, what type of rules do you want to face? Do you want a simple IRA where there's very few rules and you just contribute to it? Or do you want a 401k where you're probably going to need some type of third party administration on it? So, what makes sense to you? Do you have administration on your staff to help service a 401k? How many employees do you have? Things of that nature are things you've really got to weigh out and consider when looking at IRA, SEP, simple IRA, or 401k.
Okay. And then from this standpoint too, now does the government mandate that an employer offer something?
Great question, and this is a question that's being pushed in legislation. The Obama administration years ago tried to create a thing for to mandate retirement savings plans, and that ball has been rolling for quite some time. There are some states like California, I know is one of them. If I'm not mistaken, Oregon and I think New York just became one of them that is mandating that you have to have some sort of retirement plan for your employees. Um, and I think this came about during the Obama administration when they were looking at savings rate and retirement is so low. So and I think it's a good thing. I think we need to mandate retirement of some sort because you're getting people that are reaching 50, 60 and 70 who have nowhere near the assets to retire. That's why you're getting people working at Walmart as a temporary employee or somewhere else because they just don't have the money to fully retire and enjoy retirement like I hope to do someday.
Yeah, that's a good point. We hear about it so often that there are a lot of people that as they get closer to retirement, they can't, so they have to keep working, which then it has different impacts on the employer from taxes to the benefits that they offer, whatever it may be. There's a longer term impact that could take place. Well,
Well,
let's say that I'm go
let
ahead.
me add one thing to that, Stephen, because this affects you. You think about it, if somebody has to keep working, normally you start having health events later on in life. So a
Hmm.
company's insurance will increase the more older employees you have. So if a person can't retire at, let's say, 65 and they're working till 70, it can drive up a company's insurance plan because you've got employees on there that are having health issues that are causing your risk to go up on your insurance. So it can be detrimental to the company, not only to just the employee.
Yeah, and so it can have a compound effect, and not necessarily in a good way. I know you like
Right.
compound interest as a financial services person, but sometimes it can have a different compounding impact in a negative way. Let's say that I'm working at an employer now, and I'm putting something in to my retirement plan. Should I have that set up to where it's going to be an automatic enrollment, or have an automatic contribution increase every year? What's the best? What should we
So
do?
So this is a lot of times it's stipulated at the administrative level for the employer. It's becoming more and more common where you have automatic enrollment, and so what that means is, so John Doe starts with company ABC, and day one he's automatically enrolled into the, let's say, 401k for this purpose, and he's going to start at 3%. Each year it's going to bump up 1% until, let's say, it gets to 6. Some companies go out to 10% because that's a good savings rate. So it's going to do it over the next 7 years if that's the case. I think this is a really, really good attribute, but it's done at the plan level in a lot of cases. The attribute that's the reason why it's so good is if John Doe says, you know what, I don't want to participate in the retirement plan, so he's going to have to sign a form saying he did not want to participate, which removes any legal ramification you might have, any liability that's saying, hey, John didn't comes and says he didn't know about this. Well, we have this form that said he signed and opt out of this automatic start to the 401k plan. So it relieves some liable risk for the employer, that I think is a good thing. And then I also think it's good because 86% of the people will go ahead and stay in the plan and continue on and start saving for retirement.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, especially to be able to increase that number year over year as well. Start out with maybe what you feel comfortable, then allow the option for it to the automatic option really for it to just to increase on you.
Well, and you can do it as if your plan doesn't have it set up. So, Stephen, you could go in and say, you know what, I'm going to start at 4%. And each year it has a tool on there that'll bump up 1%. And you can say, I want to go to 10%. So for the next 6 years, it's going to bump up 1% a year, where it's kind of painless in your saving and get to those targeted goals to meet your retirement needs. So you can do it individually if your plan doesn't have it set up on the top level of the plan level.
Yeah, because I mean, overall, we talked about what was the 401k where you can contribute $20,000 in a year. 1% of that is just $200. Or as
Right.
far as increase, or I guess if you're increasing from 400, it's only like what that $4 more that you're increasing over the year. So it's very minimal what you could be contributing, but it pays a longer term dividend down the road. Obviously, one question that people ask about a lot is too, what's the difference between a Roth and a traditional plan? Would it be an IRA or a 401k, and is that an option under a simple plan?
So, great question. We now have the ability to access Roth through your 401k plans in a lot of cases, and versus a traditional 401k. So, what is the difference? If I make $100,000 and I decide I elect to put in 10%, which is $10,000, and I do that into the traditional 401k, the $10,000 I put into the traditional 401k is going to take my taxable income from 100,000 down to 90,000. So I just saved 10,000 in taxable income. The money that I put in the traditional 401k is going to grow tax deferred, not tax free, tax deferred. So the $10,000 will grow. You're not supposed to pull that money out till after age 59 and a half. The tax deferred money grows, and once you pull it out at retirement, let's say at age 65, then you pay taxes on the contribution and the growth. So you'll pay taxes at whatever that ordinary tax rate is at age 65 versus a Roth. A Roth, you make 100,000, you decide to contribute a $10,000 to it. So that 100,000 that you have is going to remain your taxable income. So you're paying taxes on it up front. The $10,000 you put into the Roth then grows tax free. So the $10,000 grows and grows and grows. And at age 65, you never have to pay taxes on that because you paid the taxes on it up front. And then the growth is free as well. This is really, really advantageous for the younger generation. Although I recommend everybody should have a bucket of taxable money and a bucket of tax-free money. The purpose in that is if you take from both, you're controlling your tax rate. And if you need, let's say, $2,000 a month in retirement to live off of plus Social Security, and you take $1,000 from Roth and $1,000 from traditional, you just cut your tax rate in half because you're only paying taxes on the 1,000 out of the traditional.
That makes sense. I was getting ready to ask you what would be a preferred method of someone making that investment, or does it matter?
So here's an interesting statistic. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can do it either way. There's no right or wrong. Just it's great to have the money, but I think it's best to have a bucket of money that's tax free and taxable if possible. Here's another statistic for you. If you're 23 years old and you save $6,000 a year into a Roth, at age 67, you will have over $2 million, and it grows at 8%. At 8%. At age 67, you will have over $2 million of tax free money. I couldn't do that when I was 23. One, they didn't have the Roth option available for us in a 401k. That's just a recent evolution. But what a great thing for young
Hmm.
people to contribute. If you did half of that, you did 3,000 a year. You're still going to have over $1 million in tax-free money at age 67. I mean, what a fantastic resource for people to have once they reach a retirement age just by putting in $3,000 or $6,000 into a Roth.
Yeah, that's pretty significant savings for someone, and then of course that compound interest that it turned into is also very substantial for someone to be able to live on in retirement. Uh, we just hope that we're getting to a point where that 2 million will be able to last them through retirement as well.
And with Social Security, I mean, I think that's a great number 2 million is a great number to have in retirement. Um, Depending on, I've dealt with long-term care situations. That's a whole nother topic that we probably don't want to go into. But if you have 2 million, I would feel very comfortable in you having enough money to live off of in retirement, depending your lifestyle.
Well, that's good to know. We were talking offline a minute ago about a different kind of plan that I was not certainly not familiar with. You said it was new to us, a PEP, or I guess a PEP 401k. What is that?
So PEPs just recently were passed in legislation. It stands for Pooled Employer Plan. And so what it does, it's once again an objective to get more people with retirement services. So let me give you the broadest example I could think of. Your local chamber of commerce can create a PEP 401k. And what that allows them to do is everybody that's a member of their chamber or anybody else they want to allow can jump into this pooled retirement plan, and it can lower the cost because you have one administration. In this case, it would be the Chamber of Commerce doing all the administrative work for the 401k, but you have company ABC, company 123, company XYZ, all participating in the same 401k. By the way, you can have different match, you can have different profit sharing, you can have different rules on it, even though for your individual group, it's all administered through the chamber, and they'll have a third party administrator, TPA, that will go and do this for each little group, and kind of allow you to have your own little boutique 401k plan through your chamber of commerce. We see this with doctors groups doing this. We see this with construction groups doing this. There's all kinds of nice little nuances where you can get and have people participating in these pooled employer plans. They've taken off really well and being very well received. It's just such a great resource to lower your cost. Um, you even see it not even for startups, but companies that were paying high costs that had over 100 employees that had audits. So they'll join with other companies and they'll combine their audit fees. And once again, lowering their cost of the plan significantly by combining their audit fees and doing combining resources to do a pooled employer plan.
Yeah, it seems like a great idea. The first thing that came to mind for me is those small employers that may have, just themselves as the business owner, the member of a chamber of commerce, or they have two, three employees, and they don't necessarily want to have the ability to take the time to administer it themselves, and then being able to be part of a chamber of commerce, which many of them are, to help administer some of these plans or set something up for themselves. You mentioned, of course, different kind of doctor groups and things like that. So that could that mean that Dr. Smith's office that's down the road and Dr. Jones's office could essentially pool something together? They may not be part of the same association, but maybe one's a gynecologist and one's a pediatrician that do two
Absolutely.
entirely different things. Oh
We
wow.
are doing one right now for a large doctors group in Dallas. And so you can have, it doesn't matter what type of doctor, it's just one office will need to do the administration of it. So,
Okay.
and you can even set it up where whoever's doing the administration of it can get paid from the other group. So maybe the simple IRA or the SEP IRA is not right for your business. You could set up this PEP and get a full-on 401k, but you're getting somebody else to do the administration of it, somebody willing to set the plan up and run with those documents.
Yeah, that definitely sounds pretty intriguing for a small business owner, if you ask me. So we've talked about the different kinds of retirement plans. Obviously, these are just plans. There's investing strategies and things that go along with that. And one that's been discussed over the last several years, of course, is ESG. What exactly is ESG, or and what are the other kinds of investment, I guess, strategies, if I'm using the right terminology?
So ESG is it's a very, I think it's politically charged type investing. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. So you're looking at the theory behind it is I want to invest in something that is being environmentally friendly or socially friendly or is governmentally friendly. So for example, you might have fund 123 versus Fund ABC. And Fund 123 has Philip Morris, which has tobacco products in it.
Mhm.
And maybe they consider Philip Morris to be maybe you consider that not to be an ESG friendly investment. So fund XYZ over here excludes Philip Morris, but they're both, let's say, large growth or large value. And so one would exclude it and one would replace it with a different company to get the performance. So what you're looking at is saying, you know what, I'm not going to invest in drugs. I'm not going to invest in alcohol. I'm not going to invest in, if you think fossil fuels are not socially responsible, then it'll eliminate that. Maybe it goes for electric vehicles. The problem with this, and the problem I have with this, is there's no definitions, there's no benchmarks to measure this off of. So you can sit there and go, yeah, I do ESG investing. Well, so you have fund 123 that says, well, you know what? I think Philip Morris is a socially responsible company. I'm going to have that. You have fund XYZ over here goes, you know what? I don't think Philip Morris is socially responsible. I'm going to exclude that from. There's no determination that says one's right and one's wrong. There's no benchmark that says nope, you disqualify as an ESG. So they can go and say, well, Philip Morris had this great year, and so it's going to cause their fund to perform higher. Um, so there's there's some character problems I have with it. There's not a set benchmark that disqualifies a fund from being considered ESG. I mean, I've seen funds that actually have this in there, and you go, well, to me, that's not ESG investing. That's just the same as any other investment. So until they really get down to nailing down what qualifies you to be ESG and can eliminate funds that are not ESG and make sure to qualify the ones that are, it's very difficult to follow that line of practice and say, hey, this truly meets what I'm looking for as an ESG investment. Otherwise, you're just kind of going off the moral standards of the company, which may fit with your standards and it may not.
So it sounds like there's a lot of room for interpretation, and it's if you're really interested in it, you really want to make sure you're asking the right questions of how did you come up, maybe how did you come up with that, why did you come up with that, and and even how does that how is it run? I guess if that's the correct terminology, significantly towards my overall goals.
If it's a passion of yours, if it's a conviction of yours, and you want to go down that path, then an advisor could take you down that path. But I would strongly recommend you look at the holdings and look at the prototype of the document, the fact sheet, to make sure it meets the standard you're looking for. Because there's some companies that are pretty liberal with their ESG standards, and they're pretty inclusive. They're going to chase performance, and if this fossil fuel company, oh well, they're not a bad fossil fuel company. Well, who determines that?
Hmm.
If that's really what they're trying to accomplish, then there needs to be a standard somewhere, and that standard to me doesn't really exist. There's not really a benchmark to compare it off of, and then therefore you can't disqualify an investment from saying, well, this isn't ESG compared to that one. They just don't follow the same standard. So it falls on yourself to determine. I'm going to go look at this. I'm going to go research this, and I'm going to find out, is this really the ESG investment I'm looking for? Um, and then you get to the point. Well, are you investing for morals, or are you investing to make money? Um, there's That's the other dilemma you reach on. I mean, my whole career, investing's been about what can we do to make money? What do you need to do? And so, when do you deviate? When do you cross a line? Are you crossing a moral line? I don't drink alcohol, but I go and invest in Budweiser or something else. Am I crossing a line? It becomes a moral debate more than, to me, an investment debate. Uh, Investments, the objective of investment is to make money. So you're incorporating morals into investing, which is, uh, it creates a lot of gray lines that you have to filter through and determine what is your objective? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, so it makes good sense that's probably the one question that if I'm getting started with a plan is being able to is establishing what my goals are and going along benchmarking. You mentioned that word a couple of times. Maybe for people who don't fully understand what that means, could you elaborate on that?
So benchmarking is when you sit there and you have something to compare it to. So and you want to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples. So in a 401k platform, you're going to have a menu, and in that menu, you're going to have different fund classifications. One classification is large growth funds. These funds are set to invest in companies like Apple, Google, Amazon, Walmart, and things like that. Um, you want to make sure that when you compare that large growth fund, you're comparing it to a large growth index. Some people compare it to the S&P 500. Maybe not a true large growth index because they're going to go over into large value. By comparing it to the index, you're truly looking at, is my performance meeting a standard at or above what's acceptable. And so being a an advisor that oversees retirement plans, we'll go benchmark our funds depending on the size of the plan, minimum once a year, maximum every quarter. And so we make sure that the investments are meeting these benchmarks, and we don't want just average, we want top tier investments. And if it's not doing that, we have several options that we'll do. We'll put it on a watch list and we'll monitor it. I did a lot of watch lists because of the market and environment we're in.
Hmm.
May not be the best time to change an investment, or you can change it. So you can flat out do a replacement. On a 401k, it doesn't cost the participant anything to do that investment change. It does take a little bit of time. They will get a notice and there'll be a transition of that. It also gets people excited when you're doing transition. So you need to make sure you communicate it. The rules require you to communicate it well in advance and let them know. But you also need to let them know, I'm not just changing the just because, we're changing it to a better investment. So it's really important to communicate and help your participants understand why you do this, how you do this, and what is the goal of what you're trying to accomplish. And the goal is always to provide the best investment options available that we can continually monitor and make sure it's outperforming a benchmark over an extended period of time.
Yeah, seems like every conversation that I've had, it all centers going back to what are the goals that you're trying to accomplish in the end. Brad, as we're kind of wrapping up here, what's one piece of advice that you could give to everybody when it comes to investing or setting up their or marketing their retirement plans to their company?
Um, I think the most important piece of advice I can give people is we are dealing with money. And when you're dealing with somebody's money, whoever's sitting across the table from you, you better trust them because we all you're a specialist in your field with insurance and you know all that. You could talk over a participant's head, I could talk over an employer's head, and it's very important that that employer feels like they can trust you because they want to make sure that you're setting up something in their best interest. As a fiduciary on a plan, our team is called CFEX certified, CEFEX. It is the highest level of fiduciary standard an individual can have when taking care of somebody's retirement plan. And so we're required to take the best interest of the employer, the employee, all parties involved, and make sure that what we're setting up is in the best interest of all of them, especially the participant. We want to make sure that the participant has all the tools and resources they need to be successful for retirement. So trust. If your radar goes off and says something doesn't feel right, you better check it out. Because there are some people that just do this to make money. No, it's not about that. It's about what you're doing is right. If you do what's right, everything else is going to work out in the business aspect of it. And I think that's so important. And people tend to get in a rush and a hurry, and they overlook this sometimes, and it can be disastrous.
Yeah, I can certainly see why trust is such a big thing. Brad, if anyone wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
I mean, the best way to connect with me is via email. My email is
Okay.
bradm@srpretire.com. We have a website, srpretire.com. You can look me up there. That is the best way to reach out to me. And if you have questions, if you want to look at something, if you want to go over something, if you want to see if your plan's okay, I mean that's what we do. 8 out of 10 times when I look at a plan, it's hey, you're in a really good place. I don't know, maybe I tweak this or adjust that, but the plan looks really good. Or the other 20% of the time, hey, you really need to make some changes. We really ought to look at this, and here's why I recommend you making those changes. So bradm@srpretire.com.
Well, thanks, Brad. I'll make sure we add that to the show notes there. And if anyone wants to connect with you, I'll have them reach out. But again, this has been Steven Snyder, joined by Brad Morgan, for another edition of the Performance Enhanced Benefits Podcast. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a great day.